What's going on, YouTube? Coming back at you with another video. Okay, so recently I brought you the direct examination of this government witness, Dontez Stewart, in this Arab case. Now I'm gonna bring you the cross-examination. If you missed the other one, I'll put a link up for you. You can definitely go back and check that one out as well. These are very interesting. So Dontez Stewart is on the stand. Now he's being questioned by defense attorneys. Mr. Stewart, good afternoon. Good afternoon. How you doing? All right. You were sort of an independent contractor. Is that correct? Correct. As you indicated to Mr. Witherall, you would be fronted a certain amount of product. You would bag it up for yourself and you would sell it to the customer base that you had developed, correct? Correct. And you had developed your own customer base over a period of time, correct? Correct. Okay. You were able to get better product and more product through Mr. West than this other gentleman, Baby, that you had initially been doing some work for. Is that correct? Correct. And the product that you dealt with was crack cocaine, is that right? Correct. Did you also sell some weed? Yeah. Okay, for how long a period of time would you say that you were selling those two products for Mr. West? A year and a half. Okay, and Robbie Johnson, you met him one time, I think you said. I seen him one time and I physically actually had met him one time also. When was that? When I first seen him in the studio, 444 Batcave. I seen him down there. I didn't speak, didn't say nothing to him or nothing. Then I met him when I did the drug transaction when he gave me the meth. He fronted me the meth. Okay. Did he even know who you were? Yeah. He knew who I was from seeing me around. How? From seeing me around the mansion or in the studio. He knew who I was. When had he seen you at the mansion? Probably, I don't know, many seen me at the mansion. I mean, people be there. Well, do you remember specifically when the two of you were in each other's company? The night he got killed? Well, sure, that night. But other than that, is that the only time? No. By the way, it was you that killed him. No, I didn't kill him. Well, not personally, but you got Berto to do it, right? Right. And by the way, you had known Mr. West for how long before he asked you to do that? Since 2010. Since 2010? Yeah. You had known Mr. West. Yeah. Okay. But you really didn't start working for him until 2016, right? Yeah. How much time did you spend with Mr. West between 2010 and 2016? Not that much because I got locked up. Likely, barely at all? Right. So in 2016, when in 2016 do you start doing some work for Mr. West? I don't know a specific date and time. How about a month? How about a season? I don't know that either because I smoked too much weed to recap on what day, what time. Now you know. It's kind of funny when Mr. Witherall was asking you questions about dates and times. I never heard you once say that I don't remember anything because I smoked too much weed. Agreed? Agreed. Okay, so when I ask you a question, not even 3 or 4 minutes into my cross-examination, you come up with, I'm not sure exactly when it happened because I smoked too much weed. Mr. Witherall comes with the objection. That is the district attorney. The court, well, that's not quite a question. What's the next question? Back to the defense attorney. So seriously, a month, a season, when do you think you first started doing some work for Mr. West in 2016? Springtime? He said springtime. Then the question was springtime? Yeah. Okay. Well, the springtime was sort of time when you got yourself into some trouble also, right? Springtime 2016? The court asked, what do you mean by trouble? Mr. Meehan, you did the shooting in June, correct? Correct. Okay, the shooting that you had, you waived your preliminary hearing for the other day, correct? Correct. That was the shooting involving of Mr. Moore. The murder of Mr. Moore, correct? Correct. So did you start doing work for Mr. West before the murder or after the murder? The work as far as what? As far as doing work for Mr. West. Buying drugs off of him. Getting drugs off of him? Yes. That's the same time I was dealing with him. Question. Okay. So June of 2016 is roughly the time when you start getting drugs from Mr. West, correct? Correct. Okay. Now you've been hanging out at the mansion a little before then to sort of gain his trust, correct? Yeah. And at some point, you say you go up to him personally, you let him know that you want to have some work, right? Right. Okay. He starts fronting you some products and you make a go at it, right? Right. And again, based on your prior experience, you knew where to make the hustle work for you, right? Right. So you start turning over what? About 2 ounces a week, you said? Right. And again, we're talking 2 ounces of crack cocaine, correct? Correct. Maybe a little marijuana on the side? Correct. You say at some point, by the way, you say that a lot of people hang around the mansion and then other people hanging around some of the other locations after the mansion got search warrant in September 2017. There's a lot of people hanging around, correct? Correct. And a lot of these people had been there, been associated with Mr. West for some time, correct? Correct. You were sort of one of the newer people, correct? Answer is correct. And yet he comes to you about doing the murder. Correct. Why would that be? Any idea? I don't know. I mean, he hadn't mentioned anything to you before then about doing any shootings or anything. Had he? No. Had you maybe then been bragging about the body that you had? Correct. Yeah. So you had been bragging about the body of Andre Moore? Or now he's answering. This is the answer. This is Dontez. About the Andre Moore body? And then the defense attorney saying, yeah. Dontez Stewart, no. Oh, I mean, the reason you did it is because Mr. Moore had shot your brother, correct? Correct. I mean, that was sort of there's a certain amount of honor about going after him, right? Mr. Witherall says, objection, the court overruled. Question again. This is the defense attorney asking him the question. There's a certain amount of honor about getting back at Mr. Moore for shooting your brother, correct? Correct. All right. You were proud of it. No response. Come on, admit it. You're under oath. You were proud of the fact that you killed Mr. Moore because he shot your brother. I wasn't proud of it. We're street guys, so eye for an eye. So in keeping with the credo of an eye for an eye, you were pretty proud of yourself for gunning the guy down that shot your brother. I don't think nobody be proud of killing somebody. Seriously, come on. You were pretty proud of yourself. You asked him, hold on. You've asked him 3 times. Mr. Meehan says, I'll move on, Judge. Okay, so let me get back to my question. Why would it be that out of nowhere, seemingly nowhere, Mr. West would come to one of the newest guys on the crew and say, I want you to shoot somebody? To this day, I still don't know why, was his answer. Pardon me? To this day, I still don't know why he would come to me out of all people. Shocking? Shocking. And did you say to him, listen, I'm not about that shit? I ain't say that. Right, you did it. Why not? Because I wanted to keep my line open with him as far as me getting fronted drugs from him. You were making money. You were making him money, correct? Correct. All right. In fact, I'm willing to bet you were probably one of the best sellers that he had. The court says, wait just a minute, rephrase the question. Rephrase the question, Judge. The one you just asked, you can't say, I'm willing to bet. Okay, you're probably one of the best salesmen that he had. I don't know. You really don't know what other people were selling? I mean, I would get my crack from him and go my way and do my business. Sell my crack and my weed to my clientele around my stomping grounds. Okay, so you weren't surprised when out of the blue he says to you, I want you to take care of somebody for me. Yeah, I was surprised. I'm like, why he asking me? Well, did you say that to him? No, I didn't say that to him. Okay. Did you talk to anybody about it? Yeah. Who? Berto. Berto? When did you talk to Berto about it? By the way, what's Berto's real name? Berto. You don't know his name? Berto. Do you know a last name? No. Do you know where Berto lives? No. So this is the guy that you're going to talk to about helping you do a murder, and you don't know his last name, and you don't know where he lives. Right. Do you know his cell phone number? Not anymore. Well, what did it used to be? Mr. Witherall has an objection. It wasn't that long ago. It was less than 2 years ago. Yeah, I don't remember. I ain't good with remembering cell phone numbers. You're pretty good with numbers, though. You remember that you were selling 2 ounces a week. You remember that, don't you? Yeah. You remember how much the front money was. You knew it was $1,000 for an ounce. Yeah. You remember, I think maybe it was actually even the judge who asked you about how much you were making off of that, and you remembered 25 to 3,500. Yeah. You're pretty good with numbers when you want to be. Yeah. You just don't remember his cell phone because you don't want to. Come on, what's Berto's last name? The court says rephrase. What's Berto's last name? Objection. I don't know. He said, the court saying it's repetitive. He said he doesn't know. Where did Berto live? I don't know. He answered those questions. Okay. Where did he hang out? Do you know where Berto hung out? He hung out where I was selling drugs at. Can you narrow that down or narrow that to a block or two? Bridge and Torresdale and Dittman, Glenlock Street. Do you want a block? Glenlock Street. Okay, what block of Glenlock? 2800? Oh, I definitely don't know that. Well, you were there every day, weren't you? Yeah. You don't remember what block of Glenlock it was? No. So when you sat down with guys from Team USA, did you go through and pick out a photograph of Berto? Yeah. And you showed that to them? Yeah. Okay. And what name is it under? Alberto. Alberto what? I didn't see no last name. Has he been arrested? I don't know. Did you ask? No. Did you care? No. Well, thank you. So out of the blue, Mr. West asks you to shoot somebody that you've seen once in your life. Right. And then what he does is gets your phone, right? He gets on your phone and sends an Instagram. Is that right? A DM? Pardon me? Direct message? Okay, direct message. Right. Okay. He sent a message that looked like it was from you? Correct. And had he ever sent a direct message to Mr. Johnson before? No, I don't got Instagram. I don't know how to activate it, work it, use it. Did you know his cell phone number? I got it after the text message not the text message, the DM was complete. Okay, that was the first time you had ever had any contact with him other than seeing him once at the studio. Yeah. What was the message? What was the message? Abdul West, he texted him. Right, but he texted him as if he was coming from you. Right. What did it say? I don't know. Something about, I don't know exactly words because, well, it was on your phone. Right. You didn't take a look to see what the message was? It said something like, yo, this is Taz. I'm trying to link up with you. Okay. And then what happened after that? Did he get back to you? Yeah, he responded back on the DM. What did you say then? Abdul West texted him and said, I'm trying to link up. I need some glass. So that was Mr. West who had texted him. It wasn't you? Yeah, it was Mr. West. It wasn't me. Oh, okay. How do we know that it wasn't, or that it was Mr. West and not you? Objection. Because he used my phone. Told me, let me see your phone, and I gave it to him. The court overruled. He's saying he DM'd Robbie Johnson, excuse me. Oh, okay. So Robbie Johnson text messages or gets back to your phone, and then you guys set up a meet. Is that right? Correct. Okay. And you go to the meet with a gun. Is that correct? To meet with who? To meet with Robbie Johnson. Correct? Okay. And where's Mr. West and Mr. Baker when that happens? I don't know where they was at. Okay. So where did you go meet him? Meet who? Mr. Robbie Johnson. 4000 Benner Street Road. Okay. And who set up that location? Robbie Johnson. Okay. So you go to his location. Correct. All right. And nothing happens. Just a drug transaction. So it was just a drug transaction? Correct. So it was as if you were just getting drugs from Mr. Johnson to go sell meth on your own, correct? Incorrect. Oh, because you actually sort of bragged to a confidential informant that the meth that you sold to him was one that you had just got off a guy you shot, correct? Correct. Okay, all right. So what did you do with the rest of the glass that you had got from Mr. Robbie Johnson? I sold it to the CI. All of it? Yep. How much was it? An 8-ball. You're not even sure, are you? Nope. Okay, so you're sending messages back and forth about Robbie Johnson for the meth. How much are you asking him for? An 8-ball or a quarter? So that's what you asked Robbie Johnson for. Either or. I thought it was Mr. West who did that. I didn't. You switching the words up. I just asked you twice how much you asked Mr. Johnson for, and you're the one who thought about it for a second and then said an 8-ball. Mr. Witherall objects. Overruled. Excuse me. It's cross-examination. You asked Robbie Johnson for an 8-ball. It wasn't Mr. West. It was you. That's 2 questions. Okay, you asked personally over the direct message. You asked for an 8-ball, didn't you? The direct message, I don't do no direct message because I don't know how to use the Instagram. So what happened was Abdul West sent the direct message out. You're going to stick with that one, huh? Okay. So what happens is after you send the direct message to Mr. Robbie Johnson, you go meet him or you go meet in the 4000 Benner Street. Then you get cold feet, don't you? No, because I didn't send the direct message. I'm sorry. He said, I'm sorry? No, because I didn't send the direct message. Now that we brought it to your attention, you don't want to admit that it was you who sent the direct message. Court says it's argumentative. I'll withdraw, Judge. So what happens is you go and meet him at 4000 Benner Street and you say, don't do it because there's too many people around, correct? Correct. Okay, what time of day was it? Nighttime. Nighttime? 9, 10. How many people were around? Like 2, 3 people? You're in a car, right? Correct. And what? They're just standing there? No, they're sitting on the steps. So you're in a car and he's in a car. I'm in his car. Okay, so you couldn't move the car just like a block away. No, because my car was parked directly behind his car and it still was on. So it was impossible to just move up a little bit away from the people that were sitting there. Is that what I'm guessing you're saying? Yeah, there were cars in front of us. So the car couldn't move? No. Okay, so what happens is you decide at that point, I'm not going to do this? Correct. Okay, and you decide to get somebody else to do it? Correct. Berto? Correct. And how long do you know Berto at this point? Probably like a year. A year? Yeah. So you had known him since 2016. Correct. And you still didn't know his full name? No. And you still didn't know where he lived? Nope. And you just knew that he hung out in your area? Yeah. Did you know of Berto ever doing a shooting before this? No. Did you know of Berto ever having a gun before this? Yeah. So you knew he had a gun? Yeah. Okay. So you just figure, hey, I'll call Berto and see if he's down for a 187. Yeah. What made you think of that? I don't know. Well, come on. There had to have been some plan there, Mr. Stewart. I mean, you're calling somebody you've known for a year, whose full name you don't know, who you don't even know where he lives, and you decide to say to the guy off the cuff, hey, are you down for a 187? Yeah. Oh, okay. So you say to him, are you down for a 187? And he says, thank God. He says, yeah, I think that would be a good day's work. Yeah. Okay, so Mr. Berto decides to get together with you when? I met up with him the same night after I left Robbie. Okay, where do you go after you leave? By the way, did you give Mr. Johnson any money? No. So he was just fronting it to you. Yeah. Okay. And again, he was fronting you how much? 8 ball or a quarter? Still can't remember, huh? Yeah. Okay, numbers are tough. After he gives you the 8 ball or quarter, you go and meet Berto where? When I get the 8 ball or the quarter, I went to Glenlock Street and I was examining the product. I was trying to come up with a plan on how I can re-meet up with Robbie, but not be so suspicious. And that's when I thought, let me call Berto and see what he's doing. And it so happened he was in the area. I said, where are you at? I went to go meet up with him and I said, yo, Ab want me to do a hit for him. But the dude he want me to shoot is amongst the, say this again. I said, the dude Ab want me to shoot is amongst OBH. So this is what I'm going to do. Is you down for a 187? He said, yeah. And I told him, all right, look, I showed him a picture. I said, look, I'm going to make a drug transaction with him, but you're going to come out of the woodwork and you're going to shoot him. But wait till I get out of the car. So this is basically just a drug robbery, right? A robbery? Yeah. You're going to steal the drugs also, right? The drugs stay in the car. It's a hit. No robbery. So you didn't take any drugs from him. You set up another deal, didn't you? Yeah, I was telling him I need some more. Right, you were setting up another deal. So you had him bring more drugs, right? Right. So it was a robbery. You took the product. No. Okay. And what you did is you get into the car, you act like you're going to buy more from him, and then you have Berto come up and shoot him, right? Right. Okay. And that is just something that you set up without Mr. West having anything to do with. What you mean by that? Well, I mean, how long were you in custody before you came up with that second story? Objection. The question is, no. How long were you in custody before you came up with that second story? Wait a minute, you'll have to take the second story out of your question. Understood, Judge? So you initially gave a different statement to the police, right? What you mean by that, different statement? Well, you didn't say that Mr. West initially had anything to do with this, did you? I don't understand what you're saying. Okay, you were arrested when? The court arrested for the murder of Robbie Johnson. Actually, let's get into that. You initially get arrested for the gun, right? Right. You get arrested for the gun in November of 2017? Right. I got to ask you something. Why did you want to get the gun back from Berto if you knew that it had a body on it? Because I was trying to swap it out for another weapon. Right. But why would you want to have a gun that has a body on it in your possession? The court says, when you say it has a body on it, you mean used for murder? Sure. That it had been used for a murder. Berto has the gun, right? Berto has the gun, correct? Correct. Okay, Berto is not you. He doesn't live with you. He lives somewhere else that you don't know where, correct? Correct. But what you do is you tell Berto, I want the gun back. Correct. Even though you know that the best way for you to get arrested on the case at this point is to get arrested with the gun, correct? You have to say yes or no. Correct. So what happens is, lo and behold, who gets arrested with the gun? I do. You do. And by the way, when you get arrested with this gun, you didn't tell them it was Berto's gun, do you? No. You tell them it was your gun, correct? I ain't tell them it was nobody's gun. Okay, you're right. But you get arrested with a gun in Philadelphia, correct? Correct. And lo and behold, they do ballistics tests, and guess what happens? The ballistics at the shooting scene for Robbie Johnson come back to the gun that just so happens to be in your possession, correct? Despite your best plans of having Berto do the actual murder himself. That's bad luck, isn't it? I'd say so. Yeah. So where was it that you got the gun back from Berto? Where was it that I got the gun back from Berto? Sure. You had to go to his house to get the gun back, right? No. I went to where I picked him up at the night of the murder, whoever's house that was. I think it was his girlfriend's house. Where was that? Where was that? What street was that on? Around the corner from Glenlock Street. Okay, everything's right near each other. Right. He said, okay, everything's right near each other? Right. What number? How did you get in touch with him? The court says, with whom? With Berto. How did you get in touch with Berto? I had his phone number. That you don't remember now? Yeah. Okay, so you get in touch. The court says, could I just ask a question? Did you see Berto shoot Robert Johnson? Could you see that happen? The witness says, yeah, I seen it. The court says, does Berto then get back into your car? The witness says, he jumped in the passenger side of my Nissan. The court says, go ahead. Mr. Mann says, thank you. When you got arrested, did they search your car? No. Do you know? He said, yeah. Did they check to see if there was gunshot residue on the passenger side of your car? No. The police have your car in custody? No. Okay, all right. So Berto has the gun, correct? For a split for like a night. Right. So when he gets in the car, why don't you ask him for the gun then? I did get the gun from him when he got in the car. I thought you said you got it from him later. No. That's what you said. That's what you said. But you didn't disagree with me. The court says, don't answer that. That's argumentative. That's fine. Rephrase the question. You got it from him right away? Correct. And then when you were planning on swapping the gun out, and then when were you planning on swapping the gun out? Whenever one became available. Well, when was the shooting? You mean what time? Yeah, what day? Wait. Do you want the week or the date or the time or all? All of them. Although I don't think he'll get any. Ask one at a time. What was the date of the shooting? The court says, you mean the calendar date? Yes, the calendar date, Judge. The witness says October 14th. So you get arrested November 2nd. Is it? Yeah. Okay. So what? 16, 18 days later, you still have the gun. After I get arrested or before I get arrested? No. You get arrested with the gun. Yeah. So during the 18 days, you hadn't gotten rid of the gun? No. Well, actually, you said that you put it up at your girlfriend's, didn't you? No. I put it up at a friend's house of mine. Right. But then you got it back again. No. I gave Berto the gun. You gave Berto the gun, right? Right. I got it back from him when I got the drugs, and I had stashed the gun in a friend's house of mine after I got the drugs, and I bagged the drugs up. And during all that time, you didn't get a chance to swap the gun out? I was waiting. Waiting for what? The call, yo. I got one for you. Come on. Waiting for a call from who? Who? Abdul West. That call never happened? No, it never happened. But you talked to him how often between October 14th and November 2nd? Daily? Yeah. I was trying to see what's up with another weapon. So it was just sitting at Berto's girlfriend's house. No, it was sitting at a friend house of mine in the basement. And then for some reason you ended up wanting the gun. Again? I was retrieving the gun to go swap out. Right. But that's not what you did when you got arrested. You were arrested just running into a house, correct? No. Okay. How did you get arrested then with the gun? The gun was inside the house. Well, okay. Whose house? A friend of mine. Okay. And how did the gun get there? I put it there. Right. Why did you put it there? Because I didn't want Berto to have it, and I wanted to have it, so whenever I got the call saying I'm ready for you to swap out guns, I can just Go right there and get it. Why did you ever move it from the girlfriend's drop ceiling? Why didn't I move it? Why didn't I move it? Because she ain't know it was there. If she didn't know it was there, it wouldn't bother her, would it? Right. So you end up retrieving the gun for basically no reason at all. No, I was going to swap it out. But you never swapped it out, sir. Yeah, I didn't have the chance to swap it out. Okay, you were afraid that if you didn't do the shooting that Mr. West would cut you out of OBH, is that correct? Not cut me out of OBH, but stop fronting me work. Okay, stop fronting you work because that was money, right? And he says, right? Let me say that again. This is the question. Okay, stop fronting you money because that, or stop fronting you work because that was money. His answer is right. It wasn't that you were afraid that he was going to injure you. I don't know. Well, in your statement, you remember giving a statement, correct? Back on October 2nd? Smith agreed to do this because he was afraid. If he said no, West would cut him off from the crack cocaine. Correct. He said he's asking the question, correct? Incorrect. Who the hell is Smith? No, sir. Stewart agreed to do this because he was afraid. If he said no, West would cut him off from the crack cocaine. That's your statement that you gave to the FBI. Mr. Witherall says, objection, Judge. That's a 302 made by an FBI agent, not a statement. Okay, he says, okay, do you remember telling that to the FBI? Can you read it again? Sure. Stewart agreed to do this because he was afraid if he said no, West would cut him off from the crack cocaine. Correct. You weren't afraid of any physical violence? I mean, I don't know what's the unknown, so I don't know. Cross-examination. This must be another attorney. Good afternoon, Mr. Stewart. Good afternoon. Mr. Stewart, you testified. Actually, yes. You testified you're not a rapper, correct? Correct. Not a social media guy, right? Correct. And you've only really seen my client, Jamal Blanding, around, right? Right. And as far as you know, Mr. Blanding's dealings with Mr. West are music related. Fair to say? Fair to say. You've never been fronted drugs by my client, correct? Correct. My client's never purchased drugs from you, right? Right. That man's never given up you a firearm, right? Right. Nor has he borrowed one from you, right? Right. In fact, you've probably been in the presence how many times? Less than 2? Probably 2 or 3 times. Probably haven't even really spoken to him other than what's up, right? Never even did that. No further questions. Okay, this is another one. Mr. Ortiz. He's respectfully declining to interview this government cooperator. Here's another attorney. Mr. Goldman. This is still cross-examination by a new defense attorney. Okay, relax. You're going to be here for a while, okay? My client's future depends on this. Mr. Witherall objects. The court says, no, sustain. The jury will ignore that. Now, Mr. Goldman, you know better than to interject all of these statements. Just ask questions, please. I heard a sigh, Your Honor, when I said this will take a while, and I just wanted to explain why. Thank you. How often would you get high? On a daily basis? Yeah. And you would get high off and on through the entire day, correct? I didn't hear you. You would get high off and on the entire day, correct? Correct. And what was your drug of choice? Weed. What else? That's it. How about Suboxone? What's that? You have no idea what Suboxone is? No, I don't do that. Never. No? You've been doing drugs, or you've been doing any drugs while you've been in prison? No. Mr. Stewart, how much would you smoke on a given day? I smoke an ounce of weed a day. Yeah. with some Reggie. An ounce of weed a day? Just help me out on this because I don't know. How many joints would that be? An ounce of weed is 28. You don't even know how much an ounce is. An ounce of weed is 28.5 grams. So probably 25, 30 backwoods joints. No backwoods. Joints, no joints. Backwoods. Backwoods? Yes. What's a backwood? It's a leaf. So how many were you smoking leaves or joints? Leaves. A backwood is a fonta leaf. Will you help me? If you're smoking a Fanta leaf, what is that? It's a natural leaf. Of a marijuana plant? No, it's a leaf. Okay, I just have to bridge a gap here. If you're smoking these leaves all day, could you explain how much marijuana you're smoking a day? Yeah, I'm smoking an ounce a day. If we broke it down in the old days, it would be joints. You roll it up in paper, right? Right. Do you ever do that? No. Okay, so just mechanically, how do you smoke a leaf of marijuana? No response. How do you smoke a leaf? I don't know. I'm just trying to figure this out. It would be the same way you would roll a joint up, but just 100% marijuana? Is that what it is? No, it's just a bigger piece of paper to roll the marijuana. Oh, is that like a Jamaicans with the bigger joints, the bigger blunts? Is it like that? Yes. Yes? Yeah. So you would do about 20 or 30 of these a day. These big blunts. Yeah. Okay. So basically, that must take you throughout the day and night. Yes? What do you mean by that? Doesn't it take you the entire day from morning until night to smoke 20, 30 blunts? Leaves? Yeah. Okay. Now, obviously, you're smoking that much because you're getting high during that period of time, right? Right. You're getting high, and it kind of like takes you out of the regular mind, right? I would say that. I mean, you wouldn't be doing it unless you were altering your mind in one way or another, right? Right. So you've been doing that for what? All the time that you're not in prison? You've been doing that all the time I'm not in prison? Since when have you been doing this? The court says he's been in prison since November 2017. Is that right? That's not my point, Your Honor. Sorry. The question is confusing, Mr. Goldman, or the question is confusing. Going back in time, you know, from your teenage years, when did you start smoking 20, 30 blunts or leaves a day? 2016. You started then? Correct. Okay, so it's almost since you've been allegedly involved with our clients, you've been smoking at that level, correct? Correct. Okay, and throughout the entire time that you've been giving us your testimony under oath, it's based upon your recollection of activity that took place while you're smoking 20 or 30 blunts a day, correct? Can you repeat that again? Yeah, everything you're recalling. Right. Is your best recollection, I guess, if it's truthful, your best recollection of a mind under the influence of 20 to 30 blunts a day, correct? Or leaves? Correct. And when you're recalling conversations back in time, 2016, 2017, it's all recollections of conversations under the influence of 20 to 30 blunts a day, correct? Correct. And when you're recalling who said what, it's under the influence of 20 to 30 blunts a day, correct? Who said what? Everything you're saying about this defendant or this defendant or this defendant is all clouded, is all affected by your recollection from years ago when you were smoking 20 to 30 blunts a day, correct? Incorrect. Just because I smoke 20 to 30 blunts a day doesn't mean I'm high every minute, hour, second of the clock. How about the times you were high from smoking the 20, 30 blunts? You were under the influence of that, correct? I don't know if he knows what you mean by under the influence. You know what I mean by the under the influence, don't you? He says, I don't. People don't take drugs unless it does something to them, right? The court says it's an improper question. Your Honor, I prefer to do it my way. Question should relate to this direct testimony. It is, Your Honor. It's certainly relevant. Not when you say what other people do or don't do. The question is what this witness testified to on direct. That's the scope of your cross. He said, so we're on the same page. As far as during the entire time you've been testifying to today, you're under the influence at least 20 to 30. He said he doesn't know what you meant by under the influence. I'm not sure anybody knows or the jury knows. That's a legal phrase. He said, no, it isn't, Your Honor. Yes, it is. Next question. You were affected by the drugs. You were mentally and physically affected by the drugs that you smoke, correct? Incorrect. So why are you smoking 20, 30 joints or leaves a day if it has no effect on you? You said mentally and physically. What does it affect, Mr. Stewart? I smoke marijuana because that's my choice and it makes me feel at ease. And you know, I got I don't take perks. I don't take pills. I've been shot a few times, so it eased the pain. That's the only effect it has on you? Correct. But what you're telling us, that's what you're telling us. Yes? Now, would you agree with me that if you're telling the truth continues every time you tell the story, does it not? Objection. If your statements today are truthful, they should be the same as past statements, shouldn't they? Next question. You have lied at various occasions in speaking to people about the events that you testified to today, correct? Incorrect. I don't understand the question you're asking me. You don't understand? Let me see if I can break it down. You have lied. You know what a lie is, right? Right. You have lied to individuals about the events that you have testified to today in court, correct? I can't recollect what you're telling me. It's not registering in my head. Has your testimony always been truthful? Has your statements about what's taking place always been truthful? As of today? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Let's do this first. Just so we can have a framework for future questioning. Mr. Witherall went through quickly your prior criminal record. The 2004 aggravated assault and firearms offense. Do you remember that case? Yes. Sorry? Yes. You shot at a police officer in Philadelphia, correct? Incorrect. You were accused of shooting at a police officer in Philadelphia, correct? Correct. And you pled guilty to aggravated assault, which is a felony, as a result of that action, correct? Correct. So you pled guilty, but you didn't do it. Okay. Let's keep going down. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to adjourn for the day. So this is it for this day and this testimony of Dontez Stewart. What I can tell you, I think about this is you can't really believe anything he's saying. The first defense attorney really made Dontez Stewart look questionable and not credible at all by the way he was questioning him and then the answers that Dontez Stewart was giving. I don't believe anything that he says, to be honest with you. I don't think that Arab had him do this. I don't know why he's saying that, but this situation, it's like, how can you believe anything this dude is saying? Like, it makes no sense to me that the prosecutors were able to even bring this up, this whole allegation of murdering, or of Arab ordering the murder of Robbie Johnson. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Clearly, they don't have enough evidence to charge Arab, or they would have already done it. It seems like the only evidence that they have connecting him to this thing in any type of way is what Dontez Stewart is saying. So I think that it's messed up that they were able to use this. I think this dude is not credible at all. And I hope that the jury did not, take into consideration any of the things that he was saying when they found Arab guilty, because at the end of the day, it's like, how could you, really find somebody guilty based off of what this guy is saying? You just heard everything that they were asking him, the way that he answered, and it sounds highly suspect to me. His story just doesn't really add up, in my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments, though. Please hit the like for me. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you ring the notification bell, too, if you're subscribed, so you get updates on all my future videos. Appreciate you, though. Peace.